A Swiss mountain has cracked, and scientists are genuinely worried about what happens next. Right now, in the heart of the Swiss Alps, an entire mountainside is slowly sliding downhill, and the village sitting directly beneath it could be wiped off the map at any moment. This is not some far-off hypothetical. This is happening as we speak, and what makes it truly terrifying is that experts say it should have collapsed already. Let me take you to a place called Kandersteg. It is a small, picture-perfect alpine village tucked into a valley in the Bernese Oberland region of Switzerland. About 1,300 people live there. They have hotels, shops, hiking trails, a famous lake called See that tourists travel from all over the world to see. On the surface, it looks like a postcard, but if you look up past the tree line, past the meadows, you will see a jagged rock formation called the Spitze, and that rock formation is the reason scientists cannot sleep at night. Here is what is going on. The Spitze sits at roughly 3,000 meters above sea level, towering directly above the village. Underneath and around it, there is something called permafrost. Think of permafrost as nature's glue. It is permanently frozen ground, rock, ice, and sediment that has been locked in place for thousands of years. It is what holds these massive alpine peaks together. Without it, the rock becomes loose, unstable, and eventually it falls. And that is exactly what is happening. The permafrost is thawing, not slowly, not over centuries, but at an alarming rate. According to the Swiss Meteorological Service, temperatures in the Alps are rising at about 0.5 degrees Celsius per decade. That is nearly twice as fast as the global average. And when you are talking about rock that has been frozen solid for millennia, even a small temperature increase is catastrophic, because once that ice melts, water seeps into the cracks. It refreezes at night, expands, and fractures the rock from the inside out. Then one day a piece breaks off, then another, and eventually the whole thing gives way. At the Spitze, the numbers are staggering. We are talking about 16 to 20 million cubic meters of unstable rock. To put that in perspective, the glacier collapse that buried the Swiss village of Blatten in May of 2025 involved about 9 million cubic meters. The Spitze holds more than double that. And scientists from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, also known as ETH Zurich, have said openly that in the worst-case scenario, if the entire mass comes crashing down into Lake See above the village, it would create a wave that could travel 2.5 miles and cover roughly 25% of Kandersteg. Hotels, homes, the school, all of it. Now, if you think I am exaggerating, I am not. The senior glaciologist at ETH Zurich and director of the Swiss Glacier Monitoring Network said it plainly. He said we cannot predict exactly when disasters like this will happen. He also said that Spitze should have fallen by now. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the top glacier scientists in the world is saying this mountain should have already collapsed. Back in 2018, a paraglider was flying over the Spitze and noticed something disturbing. There was a visible cut in the mountain, a crack. He alerted authorities, and that was the moment everything changed. Experts rushed in, and what they found confirmed the worst fears. The outer rock section was separating from the mountain and could fall at any time. Since then, Spitze has become the most monitored rock formation in all of Switzerland. They have GPS units, radar systems, total stations, high-speed cameras, drones, weather stations, all of it pointed at this one mountainside. They assess the hazard level weekly, sometimes daily. Sensors have recorded the mountain shifting up to 70 centimeters in a single day. That is over 2 feet of movement. For a rock formation that size, that is absolutely terrifying. The village has spent over 11 million Swiss francs on disaster preparedness. They have built dams along the Uschibach stream to slow down potential debris flows. They have strung massive metal nets across the dams to catch boulders and rubble. They have evacuation plans, early warning systems, WhatsApp groups, email alerts. The goal is to give residents at least 48 hours of warning before a major collapse. And as of right now, there is a construction ban on new buildings in the most dangerous parts of the village. The town center, including several historic hotels, has been classified as a high-risk red zone. If you are finding this as fascinating and alarming as I am, do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. This kind of content takes serious research, and your support helps me keep bringing it to you. Now, Kandersteg is not the only place dealing with this. Let me tell you about Blatten, because what happened there is essentially a preview of what could happen to Kandersteg, only worse. On May 28, 2025, the Birch Glacier above the village of Blatten collapsed. A peak called the Kleines Nesthorn had been crumbling for weeks, dumping massive amounts of rock debris onto the glacier below. That extra weight eventually caused the entire glacier to give way. Millions of tons of ice and rock came roaring down the mountainside and buried almost the entire village. 300 residents had been evacuated about a week before, which is the only reason we are not talking about a mass casualty event. One person, who apparently stayed behind, is still missing. Scientists from the University of Zurich identified 3 factors directly linked to rising temperatures that caused the Blatten disaster. First, the Birch Glacier was melting. When a glacier melts, it loses the stabilizing pressure it once exerted on the surrounding slopes. Second, the permafrost in the rock of the Kleines Nesthorn was warming, allowing water to penetrate deeper into the mountain. Third, the snow and ice cover on the peak had dramatically decreased in recent summers compared to decades ago. Without that protective cover, heat penetrates even deeper into the rock, accelerating the cracking process. All 3 factors came together at the same time, and the result was an event that scientists are calling unprecedented for the Swiss Alps. And then there is Brienz. This tiny mountain village in the Graubünden region near Davos has been evacuated not once but twice. The first time was in May of 2023, when 2 million cubic meters of rock threatened to come crashing down on the village. In June of that year, 1.7 million cubic meters actually did break loose and came thundering down the slope. It stopped just meters from the edge of the village. Meters. The residents were allowed to return, but then in November of 2024, they had to leave again because new instabilities appeared. The mountain above Brienz has been sliding at up to 20 to 30 centimeters per day. And here is the kicker. The entire village itself is also sliding. The ground underneath Brienz has been creeping downhill at about 2.5 meters per year since the last ice age. Geologists are now drilling a drainage tunnel underneath the village that is over a mile long, hoping to extract enough water from the rock to slow the slide down. That project alone cost nearly 40 million Swiss francs. And if we go back just a little further, in June of 2023, the summit of Mount Flachthorn in the Silvretta Alps collapsed without any warning whatsoever. Over 100,000 cubic meters of rock broke off and crashed into the valley below. The mountain literally lost 60 feet of its peak overnight. A geologist from the University of Salzburg said that peak had probably been frozen for thousands of years, and the collapse was most likely caused by extreme temperatures from the previous summer. The mountain rescuers said half of the summit was simply gone. The summit cross, the marker at the very top, vanished with it. So what is the bigger picture here? The Alps are falling apart. That is not hyperbole. Switzerland has the most glaciers of any country in Europe, and they are disappearing at a shocking rate. The country lost 4% of its total glacier volume in 2023 alone. In 2022, it was 6%. Since 1950, glaciers in the Alps have lost more than half their total area, and projections suggest that if warming continues at the current rate, most alpine glaciers could be gone within this century. When those glaciers disappear, the mountains lose their structural support. The permafrost melts, the rock fractures, and gravity does the rest. Scientists at ETH Zurich are now using advanced computer simulations to model what would happen if Spitzestein collapses in different scenarios. They are running these models specifically for Kandersteg, trying to predict where the debris would go, how far it would travel, how fast it would move. Meanwhile, Switzerland monitors roughly 1,400 glaciers under its national monitoring project, and a quarter of their volume has vanished just since 2015. 60 glaciers, most of them in the Valais region, are currently listed as dangerous. And this is not just a Swiss problem. Around 670 million people worldwide live in high mountain areas. In the Himalayas, glaciers are melting faster than ever, and they provide critical water to nearly 2 billion people. Hundreds of new glacial lakes have formed from meltwater in recent decades, and when those lakes burst, the results are catastrophic. In 2016, a glacier in Tibet suddenly collapsed and killed 9 people. In Peru, glacial floods have been recurring. The dynamics are different in each region, but the underlying cause is the same everywhere. The planet is warming, and the mountains are paying the price. What really gets to me is how normalized this is becoming. A village gets buried, another one gets evacuated for the second time, a mountaintop disappears overnight, and within a week, the news cycle moves on. But the people living in these valleys do not get to move on. The residents of Kandersteg check their phones every morning to see if the mountain has shifted overnight. The people of Brienne spent over a year locked out of their own homes. The community of Blatten may never return. One scientist from the University of Fribourg put it in terms that really stuck with me. He said the glaciers in the Alps are currently disappearing at a rapid pace. In some recent years, up to 4 or 5% of Swiss glacier volume was lost per year. Given the current rate of warming, it is likely that within 50 years, most Alpine glaciers will have disappeared. Small glaciers, like the one that destroyed Blatten, will be among the first to go. So what can be done? Switzerland is arguably the most prepared country on Earth for this kind of thing. They have early warning systems, evacuation protocols, monitoring networks, disaster dams, and some of the best geologists and glaciologists in the world. And even they were caught off guard by Blatten. The collapse happened faster and was more devastating than anyone predicted. Now imagine what happens in the Himalayas, or the Andes, or the Caucasus, where monitoring infrastructure is a fraction of what Switzerland has. That is why scientists are pushing so hard for global investment in mountain monitoring and early warning systems. A disaster risk advisor to the Swiss Development Cooperation said it clearly. Climate change and its impact on frozen environments will have growing consequences for human societies that live near glaciers and depend on them. And a geoscientist working in Nepal pointed out that it is not just about exporting Swiss technology. These are complex disasters, and working together with local communities is just as important, if not more so. If you are still watching, I want you to think about something. The Alps have been standing for millions of years. They have survived ice ages, earthquakes, everything nature could throw at them. But right now in our lifetime, they are crumbling. Mountains that were frozen for thousands of years are breaking apart in a matter of months. Villages that have existed for centuries are being buried or abandoned. And the process is accelerating. The Spitze above Kandersteg is still moving. Every single day, it inches closer to the edge. The monitoring equipment is running around the clock. The evacuation plans are ready. The question is not if it will fall. The question is when, and whether 48 hours of warning will be enough. And here is what really keeps me up at night. The researchers at ETH Zurich who are running those simulations for Kandersteg also said something that most people missed. They said we have to expect surprises in the future. Where and when, it is very difficult to know. Think about that. These are the top mountain scientists in the world, with the best equipment money can buy, and they are openly saying they do not know where the next disaster will strike. They can monitor the mountains they already know are dangerous, but there are hundreds of peaks across the Alps with permafrost. Not all of them are being watched. Not all of them have GPS trackers and radar and drones. Some of these mountains are in remote areas where nobody's looking. The mayor of Kandersteg said it best after the Blatten disaster. He said Blatten and Kandersteg, that is only the tip of the iceberg. And he is right, because for every mountain that is being monitored, there are dozens more that are not. And the warming is not slowing down. Stay safe, stay aware, and I will see you in the next one.